Okay, good morning everybody, and welcome to our third virtual experience today. My talk is taking place in Audient Studio 2, for anybody who doesn't know it. My name's Adrian, Adrian Greensides, and I'm the principal of Spirit Studios, and I'd like to welcome everybody who is here today watching. Like all of our virtual experiences so far, we've got a great day sorted today. Kind of finishes around 1:30 with a little bit of a Q&A by me afterwards, but we've got live performances throughout this whole session. So I'm just going to sit and have a brief chat with you just for about 10 minutes or less, just talk about a little bit about what we're going to do for the day, but also just to go over a little bit of the brief overview as to what we've done to get us to where we are right now. I'm obviously going to discuss coronavirus and where we are as an institution. We have already begun teaching again now face-to-face with our private students, industry students, which take place at night. So that's introduction to music production and electronic music production and post, which is great. We've been open for our existing students now for probably about a month and a half, where they're beginning to use the studios again, which is really, really exciting to see people coming back into the building and to have conversations again with a great many of our students and listen to what they're doing and listen to how this has all impacted them. Freshers Week begins on September the 14th, so that's kind of like the big new start for the year. So all of our new first years will be joining us on that week. As you can imagine, most of the stuff will be kind of done with what we're doing here. So obviously I'm inside the studio now, and some of the technology that we're using in order for me to sit here and do some of the things you will see today. These are some of the things that we'll be using for our inductions this year, but also for some of our teaching. So naturally we're in studios, and so the majority of what we do is practical. But at the same time, we also do a lot of non-practical things where it's kind of classroom based. So all of our teaching is going to be kind of like this. We'll be in a studio, we'll be recording it for all of those people who are in the second years and third years and perhaps some of the first years that would rather not be in the studios all of the time, because they might have some issues with either their own underlying health issues or other family, friends and members. So that's kind of it where we are right now. The building is great. It's great to be back here and stuff, and after such an amount of time. And so it's really good to be able to show you a load of stuff. So what have we got? So after me, we've got recording a vocalist. So we're going to be in a live room just in front of me right now. There's a live room which you will see eventually when that starts with Dom. And it's going to be with a vocalist, which is one of our electronic music tutors, Holly. She's going to be singing through some of her own work, which beautiful voice, great performance, and it's all been recorded inside here, which is the control room, which is one of our studios, the Audient desk. From there, we're going to go into music business, and we're going to look at what music business does for an artist. So obviously one of our degrees is music business, and that's going to be with David Cameron-Pryde. We're going to be talking about the insight on managing an artist in that process. So he's going to be talking to you for kind of roughly about 10 minutes. Then we're going to go into mixing and recording, and we're going to be in the S6 with Atcheson. The S6 is a beautiful studio. It's a great studio. It's great sound. It's really, really good for listening things through. I like to refer it to as like a mini cinema. There's a large cinema screen in there, and the S6 desk, we've got all of surround sound, and it's where we can really kind of demonstrate and work with post and stuff like that. From there, we're going to be going at about 12:20 into our venue, which is another great facility that we've got. And for anybody that's either been in the building or they've been on one of the previous experiences, they'll see. But then there's going to be, we're doing a rehearsal for a live performance, and Holly's going to be singing as well on that performance. And then from there, we're going to go back to David Cameron-Pryde, and we're going to be looking at how to set up a gig and how to make up money. So really, it's kind of like a bit of a journey all the way through today, which we'll show you, which kind of tries to demonstrate all of our degrees. So electronic music production and performance as a degree, entrepreneurial audio production as a degree, our live degree, music production, music business. So it kind of runs through and it gives everybody a little bit of a flavour as to what it is that we do and what we provide for everybody. Any questions that you've got, please just type them in. I'm going to be answering your questions at the very, very end. So I think the time there is roughly going to be about 1 o'clock. So if you've got any questions, then please, throughout the day, just type them into YouTube, and then we'll collect all of those questions, and then they'll be presented to me at the end, and I'll answer them. You might have loads of questions also during some of the live performances or the demonstrations that we see. So if there's any questions that are specific to either of Holly or of Dom or of Al or of David or of Lewis in the venue, then keep them coming for them as well. They're kind of there to say, this is what I'm working with. I'm using Pro Tools. I'm sat in front of an Audient ASP 8024 desk, of which we've got about 5 of these inside the studio. And then David might be talking about, how he can answer questions about how what he's talking about now will relate to the degree course of music production, music business and creative industries. So I've got a really, really good day for you. It's about, what time is it now? It's about 8 minutes past, 6 minutes past. So I'm not going to go on too much longer for you. I'm sure you're all eager to sort of get started. In between each thing, I'll just put a slide back on, which will say we'll be back with you again shortly, as we just sort of transfer some stuff around. This is live, which makes it really, really exciting. So the vocal that you'll be hearing is live. What goes on in the rehearsal will all be live. Great, a really, really good day. So I'm going to leave it about that. As I said, please keep coming with your questions. If you've got any questions specifically for me, that you might want me to answer, or if after the event you feel like you wanted to ask maybe Lewis something or Holly something and you didn't, then ask me the question and we can get back to you. The other thing is, if anybody who's watching would like to actually come in and see these studios, we've got 11 recording studios in total, edit suites, we've got a live venue, we've got a mini grand piano upstairs, we've got tape machines, we've got all sorts. And so to come inside the building and to have a look around, you are obviously more than welcome to do that. We have an email address, which is manchester@spiritstudios.ac.uk. I think that will probably be published throughout, so you've got that. Just send us an email and we'll arrange something, and you can come in and you can see what it is that we're doing for yourself, because I guess it's always better to be done in person. You can ask us questions. We're obviously in clearing from a degree perspective, and so our courses, all courses are actually offering places within clearing. So if anybody is thinking about applying, even though it's late, and as I say, the 14th of September is when we start, there's plenty of time. We can help you through that process in terms of your application process with UCAS. We can talk to you about accommodation, all sorts of bits and pieces that you might have, and some of the practical aspects of how we're teaching and stuff. So any question, no matter how large, no matter how small, I'll do my best to answer at the very, very end. And if you have any questions that I haven't answered or you didn't feel like you want to ask, get in touch via the email and we'll take it from there. So have a great day. Thank you all for attending, and I look forward to hopefully seeing many of you again soon. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name's Dominic. I'm a recording and mixing engineer and a studio assistant at Spirit Studios. Today we're going to be tracking vocals. If you can see in here, we're with Holly. She's a singer-songwriter and producer, and she's also a teacher on our industry courses on the electronic music production. So before we get started today, I'm just going to run you through some stuff. We're recording today in the Audient Studio 2 on an ASP 8024 desk. It's a really cool studio and you get access to it from your first year of uni, which is pretty cool. It's got some really cool features as well that I'm going to run you through before we get started. So before we do anything, let's just have a look in the live room. So we're recording today on a Rhodes NT2000 microphone. It's a large diaphragm condenser and it's really good for tracking vocals. The live room in here is really, really nice as well. So with that, let's just run through our session. If you look at our session here, we've got everything coming in on here. That's all the stems for the session. The track's called Ghost By. It's an original by Holly. If we look on here, everything's coming back on 1 and 2, nice and easy. Let's just get rid of this. Nice and easy. And then we're coming back on channel 4, that's what we're recording into. So if you look over here at the desk, this is our outputs over here. So coming on 1 and 2, and then coming in over here on 4. So from the live room, we're coming in, and then coming down on this channel strip here, and then auxiliary tracks at the top here. And in the Audient 2 suite, we've got some hardwired, just to A and B here, which goes to the fallback amp, which is then sending back to Holly in the live room, so she can hear. So, hey Holly, can you hear me? Yeah, all good? Okay, so we're going to have a quick run through, get some levels, and just let me know if you can hear everything okay.
Cool.
All right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, that's all good. Is that all good for you, Holly?
Yeah, can I have it up a tiny weeny bit?
Yeah, of course you can.
Thanks.
So we're just making sure everything's okay for her before we start tracking. We've tracked levels. Just quickly before we start, if we go over here. So here we've got a high pass filter, which is pretty cool. So you put that on and it's just taking all the low end out, which just cleans everything up before recording. And then before we start, if you look over here, you should be able to see this blue light coming over here. And a really cool feature with the Audient desk in here is that it has a VCA bus compressor, which is basically just compressing all the dynamics into place just before you start recording, and it just makes everything a lot tidier before you start. So before we go, I'm just going to check that that's not made levels too loud. No, it needs to be a bit low. Sweet.
Yeah.
Is
Cool.
that all good for you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alright, we'll start tracking. And off we go.
I'm in love with a ghost boy, but he don't come round here no more. And I'm not lovesick, oh, I'll tell you. But there's no way I can be sure. running through my veins and in my bones. He's everything that I have ever known. Ghost boy, gone with the wind. Why did I let you win? I can hear him in the wind, but don't you hear his cries? And he is calling. This love has grown so much, and everybody around knows I've fallen. Oh, oh, hey. Oh, oh, hey. Ghost boy, I'm in love with a ghost boy. But he don't come round here no more. And I'm not lovesick, oh, I'll tell you. But there's no way I can be sure.
Just all the way through will be cool. Yeah. So we'll save that quick, and then we'll do another take, guys. I'll just show you a cool feature in Pro Tools is the playlisting feature. So if you want to save multiple takes without having to faff around too much, you can just go up to this little window here, click on this arrow, and then save a playlist. And if you go down here, you can see that it's saved underneath, and then you can just kind of pick and choose. You can pick and choose the best. So, yeah, we'll just track another one, and then we'll pick the best.
come round here no more, then I'm not lovesick, oh, I'll tell you. But there's no way I can be sure.
That was perfect. Yeah, cheers for that. That should be plenty to work with. So yeah, thank you very much. Cheers. All right, guys. So with that done, I'm going to run you through some like nice little workflow tips before we send this off to Al for mixing. So with the playlist feature, if we go into the session here, you can kind of see now that we can pick and choose the best bits, which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to do a little run through the track, pick the best bits, and then yeah, we'll send it off to Al. Okay.
I'm in love with a ghost boy, but he don't come round here no more, and I'm not lovesick, oh, I'll tell you. But there's no way I can be sure. Running through my veins and in my bones. Running through my veins and in my bones. He's everything that I have ever known. Ghost boy, gone with the ghost boy, gone with the wind. Why did I let you in? I can hear him in the wind, but don't you hear his cries, and he is calling. This love has grown so much, and everybody around knows I've fallen.
Okay, that should be enough. I'm pretty confident that the second take was better in that instance. So with all those little bits kind of chosen, we're just going to come over here and just do some tidying up before we send it off. So if you highlight the full stem and then hit Alt, Shift and 3, you can consolidate it quick, which just means it's one just completely rendered file, which is nice and easy. And then from here, we're just going to save it and then just solo this. Because the next engineer's got the full session already, we're just going to be sending the vocal. So if you highlight the vocal and solo it, Command, Alt and B, and you can just do a quick balance. You want it interleaved, and then, oh no, we want it mono, and then, yeah, just call it vocal bounce. Bounce that out, nice and quick. And then we're going to quickly save a copy in, which is here. Just means I can save it to an external hard drive, super easy. Audio files, don't need anything like that because we've done everything. Yeah, we're going to OK it. And we're just going to save it to an external hard drive. There we go. So that's it from me, guys. Hope you enjoyed a quick little video. Is there any questions? No. No worries. That's fine. Okay. That's all from me, guys. So cheers, and I'll see you later.
Hi everyone, my name's David and I am the course leader for Music, Business and Creative Studies here at Spirit Studios, years 1 and 2, and I just wanted to give you a slightly different angle on what the guys are doing today, which is, you've seen the recording process and you'll see a little bit about the mixing process after me, and then we'll go on to some live stuff. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, from a music business perspective, what you should maybe be looking at once you've got your track and you've got yourself to a level where you feel like you need to start putting a bit of a team together and helping yourself. So let's look at a couple of things regarding management. I'll just give you a little bit about myself. Like I say, I'm the Music Business Creative Industries leader here at Spirit. I was a record producer for 10 years. I was an artist manager, managed artists, signed to major labels. Had a number of big hits with record production. I'm a label owner, co-label owner of Manchester Records and Muck Records here in Manchester. And I was an artist myself for a good 10, 12 years. So I'd like to think that I've sort of experienced that whole journey that some of you guys will be going on, which will be from artist, then as you go through the industry and take on different roles, management, label. So know the sort of feelings and things that will appeal to an artist and then a label, and the type of things that they're going to be looking for and that are important. So just want to start with a little music quote, which is a German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, and that is, without music, life would be a mistake. Which was very poignant to me, and I've always remembered that quote, because for me, music is everything, and it doesn't matter as I grow older, the passion doesn't die. I've just bought another 3 bass guitars during lockdown because I wanted to start playing bass again. And I'm one of those people who spend more time putting a playlist together for going in the shower than the time I actually spend in the shower. So music to me would be the very last thing I'd strip out of my life. It's really important. And I suppose you guys that are going to watch this and tuning in feel a similar way. Let's move on to a bit of artist management then. So you've got your track together, you've done your recording, you're feeling, what do I do with it next? So at what stage do you think an artist needs a manager? And what can a manager bring as part of a team to help the artist progress in their career? What might a manager help with recording wise and in the help of music creation? So let's take it on a basic level, because with management, it can become a very complex relationship depending on how the artist is doing. Obviously, with artists that start doing really well with a career and things start taking off, that role between artist and manager is absolutely key. It becomes very intense at times, and the things that you have to decide together become very important. There's a lot of money involved. There's other people's earnings that are also part of this sort of relationship as well. Then managers will be dealing with everything from agents, setting up tours, licensing deals, publishing deals, record deals, lawyers. I mean, the list is endless. But today, what I want to just focus on is that very first basic relationship with an artist and manager. And just to talk about recordings and music creation, which you've just seen a little bit of there, I think a manager that's got a bit of experience with recording studios and creating records that are going to get released, one of the things they can help an artist with is how to plan out a studio session along with the producer, put the artist in touch with the right producer, have an ear to the ground for the up and coming producers, because they're more likely to be within a price bracket that a new artist will be able to afford, whereas the high-end producers, it's really major label money. They might take a punt now and then, but really the manager wants to be looking at the new guys on the block that are coming through, that are getting great sounding records, and you're hearing them on BBC Introducing, and they're getting a little bit of the buzz around the recordings that these guys are doing. So that manager can help you with your studio time, getting the sound that you want with the producer, letting you know where to put your time in the studio. What are the important things? Don't get bogged down in the detail. If you think about what you're paying for a studio for, normally it's the things you can't do in someone's house, you can't do in a bedroom studio. So getting a great drum sound, the use of fantastic mics. If you've not got a great vocal mic and you want to use a top-end Neumann or something like that, focus your time into getting your vocal recording and the other big key parts to your track. Don't be spending a lot of time on detail, because you can always do the little detail bit somewhere else. Pre-studio, again, I would say that is all about the planning. It's how are you going to spend the time? How are you going to make sure that that spend that you're putting in, your hard-earned money, works for you, and you get what you need coming out of the studio. Sonically, that those discussions with the producer are really key. So the producer knows exactly what you're going for, how to get it. Just to give a little example of something like that, Joy Division, which is a famous Manchester band that everybody knows, very revered. When they first started going to the studio with Martin Hannett, they were more of a trashy sort of garagey sound band. Martin gave them sound, actually. He gave them that sort of ethereal reverb sound to the drum kit, that sort of that added to the melancholy of the lyrics. The band actually didn't like the recordings at first, which not a lot of people know, and they felt like it didn't sound like them. But now that's gone on to become an iconic production style that's been much lauded, copied by bands like Editors, Interpol. Lots of that sort of like melancholic indie stuff look to the Martin Hannett Joy Division sound. So yeah, it's really important to get the right producer and the producer to understand where you're going and have a synergy with what you're about. How can a manager help with finished recordings and live? So this really moves on to what happens once you've got that product and you're buzzing about it and you're thinking, do you know what, we've actually got something special here. And this is where really what you need to be doing is learning how to self-release. And I think at that point you do need a manager who's released a few things, who's got a few contacts in press, who knows the process of getting stuff to radio, to BBC introducing, who knows how to put a release schedule together for you so that you've got a social media plan, so that you've got a complete release plan leading up to your release of your record, and then afterwards. It can be a bit bamboozling for an artist at first when they're first just concentrating on the music to get the timeline right of how to release a record, who to push it to. And so many a time, a really great sounding record will just, it won't have the impact that it should have. So really you want a management company that has some experience in helping you take those first steps. At what point should you get a manager? That's another key one, isn't it? It's different for different artists in the career. Normally I would say try and choose a manager who has got some experience and contacts and who has been in the industry for a little bit of time. In saying that, not totally against using rookie managers if they've got the right attitude. The key thing is passion for the artist and belief. Coldplay, for instance, their manager was one of their friends at university and they stuck with him throughout it, which is really unusual, especially when they're going through situations where they're doing a publishing deal and then they do a record deal, because sometimes those major companies can get a little bit edgy if it's a rookie manager. I think they're putting all this money in. Does the manager know what he's doing? They showed belief in him. Everyone showed belief, and I think that's fantastic. And he's come through, and he's now a well-known manager. For you as an artist, I think it's comes to a point where you need that USP. You need your own sound. You need something that makes you stand out, whether that's your vocal characteristics, the lyrical approach, but something that pricks people's ears up. And then the key time to get the management is when you ask yourself, where do I need to go with this next? And have I got the tools myself to go where I need to go with it? Have I got the contacts? Have I got the know-how of how to put a record out and how to approach labels? If the answer to that is yes, give it a good go yourself. You will, at some point down the line, though, need some management, because just the body of work you're going to have to do as an artist, if you do sign a deal and you need to do albums, you need to do promotion, you go on a promo cycle, etc. You just won't have time to deal with the everyday bits that you'll need to do for the business side. So yeah, that's a bit from me about management. I've tried to keep it a little bit basic because it can be very expansive depending on how your career is doing as an artist. We're going to pass over now to Al, who's going to show you a little bit about mixing, and then we'll talk a bit more about the live side of things later on. Okay, thank you.
Hey guys, welcome to the S6. My name's Al. I'm a producer and a tutor here at Spirit, and we are going to do a bit of mixing in this really awesome studio, and I'm going to show you the desk that we've got. So this is the S6 suite, and this is kind of named after, like a lot of our studios are, named after the console that we've got in here, and this is the Avid S6. Really cool piece of kit. This is like a digital console, and we're working in Pro Tools, which we've got here. We've got our Pro Tools session open, and this is the session that you'll have heard Holly and Dom recording into earlier. I got hold of it. I've added a few extra colours because you got to have things nice and colourful. So this is what we're going to be working with today. And yeah, this desk is basically like a giant mouse almost. So we can tweak loads of stuff on here, and we're going to be, like I say, using it in conjunction with Pro Tools, and I'll sort of show you some of the really cool features that you've got on this desk. You sort of can't see the rest of the room, but this room is a fantastic one for the monitoring and the way that you can sort of listen to things in here. It's beautifully treated, and you've got up here a few of these extra speakers which we're not using today, but this is where you might do a lot of film mixing, because this has a surround sound setup. So it has a 7.1 surround sound setup. I'll flip back round. Ahead of the desk, we're going to have two speakers in the corners. There's one in the middle, and then we've actually got another two on this side, and then another two on this side as well. So like I say, we're not using all of them today. We're only using two for a stereo recording, but this is a really great room. So let's jump into it. So yeah, this is our Pro Tools session, and at the moment, if I play this, we're not going to hear anything, and that's because on the desk I have all of my faders down. So if I flip over here, you can see in our session we've got audio playing, but because all of our faders are down, we're not going to be able to hear any of this. Now we could balance these faders and get a rough level in Pro Tools, but it's way more fun to use the desk, so that's what we're going to do. So if I flip back around, there we go. If I start bringing in some of these faders, we're going to start hearing some stuff. So the first process that I'll do when I mix is get a rough balance, and just that means setting some of the volume levels to make sure things kind of sound roughly how we want. And a lot of the time I start with the vocals, because even in electronic tracks or even in sort of heavier tracks, the vocals are the thing that you really listen out for. So if I bring this up,
He's everything that I have ever known.
so there we have our lead vocal.
Ghost boy, gone with the wind.
Background vocals there, and I'm going to just work through and start getting all of our instruments balanced out.
Let you in. I can hear him in the wind, but don't you hear his cries? It's falling. So much, and everybody around knows I've fallen.
Cool, so I think that's a good place to start. This process at the start is just kind of getting a rough set of levels, and the great thing is because Holly produced this song, really well produced. She's a great singer, so our mixing process is going to be a little bit more straightforward because everything's already sounding really good, but we're going to do some different processes, and I'm going to show you some effects that I like to add in. And I think we'll start off with the vocals. So if I just flip back over to our session view, we can close this, we don't need to see that. So I'll quickly talk you through the session that we've got. Drums at the top, And then we've got some percussion, we've got the bass part, all of our synths in one track, and then we have our lead vocal here, and then 3 sets of backing vocals, which are very musical. They're rather than just vocals, they're almost doing like instrument parts. And again, that's down to Holly's arrangement. So it's really a really nice piece of music to work with. So the first thing I'm going to do is we'll focus on our vocals, and let's get these sounding a bit more spacious. We're going to look at adding some reverb and some delay as well. So if I play this at the moment and solo the vocal, which means we're just going to listen to the vocal, and this is something actually I can do on this desk. So if I press play, we're going to hear all of our stuff. On the desk, I can find my lead vocal, which is right here. I have my vocals here. And press the solo button, and now we're just focused on this lead vocal part. So that's sounding really nice, but like I say, I think we can give it a sort of a bigger sense of space. So we can do that with reverb. Now I have a reverb channel down here, and I'm using this Deverb plugin, which is just the stock plugin that comes with Pro Tools, but it works really well. And I've already got a setting here, which is this large hall setting, but at the moment, our vocal isn't going to this track. So if you look at the meters down here, you'll see that the reverb has nothing on it. So what we need to do is send our lead vocal over to our reverb, and we can do this using the desk. So flip back around here. We've got, like I said, we've got faders at the bottom, which is what we're using to balance all the volume. And then we've got a bunch of different pan pots and buttons. And at the top here, this sort of row across here, this is defaulted to our sends. So what that means is I can adjust the levels on these pan pots up here, and we can send some of the signal from our lead vocal track, which is this red track over here, and send that over to our reverb, which is this track here. Now at the top, my top row of knobs here is all hooked up to the reverbs. So if I adjust these, we're going to send that signal. So I'll show you what that sounds like. So you can hear when I'm twisting this more, we're getting more of this lead vocal sent to our reverb, so it's going to have a bigger sound. Now, what I'm going to do is shift this over to a section where there's a lot of stuff happening. So let's find maybe this section here, where you can see we've got all of our vocal tracks. This track has stuff on, it's just very quiet. And we're going to send our lead vocal and our background vocals to the reverb and really try and give it a sense of space. And what's really cool is when I'm doing it on the desk, it actually adjusts everything in Pro Tools. Like I said, the desk is like a giant mouse for Pro Tools. So I'll adjust that reverb send.
Ooh, ghost boy.
And you can see it happening in real time in Pro Tools. So we're just going to unsolo our lead vocal. And do all of our vocals and send them all to the reverb and try and get a really cool, like, spacey effect going on. Yeah, like that's like a very dreamy kind of sound. And one thing that's really awesome about this desk is all of the different controls and these pan pots at the top where we have our sends. These are all like touch sensitive. So what that means is if I am adjusting the level of reverb send to say on our background vocals, which you can see here indicated by this like B-Vox here, that's all my background vocals. Let's say I want to go back and quickly make an adjustment and start adding some reverb to my lead vocal. If I just touch the control on the desk, it switches over to our lead vocal. And so we can use this to quickly add loads of different spatial effects to loads of tracks in our mix. So that's what we're going to do now. Cool. So what I was doing there was just jumping around and just by touching the different controls, we can actually switch automatically. So we've got our reverb sounding pretty good. I think what we can do now is jump onto another effect, which is delay. So let's just close this down. I also have this delay track here, and for my delay, I think we're going to send again some of the lead vocal and some of the background vocals to our delay. So let's play it again. Take it off just the percussion track. So same kind of process again, except this time we're going to be looking at our delay sends here. That's a bit much. Let's get our others back in. Yeah, that sounded really cool, and I'm using this plugin here, Tape Echo plugin, which is giving us that kind of echoey, delayed effect. So when I'm adjusting those sends, it's going through this plugin, and that's what's giving us all that sense of space. So that's our kind of spatial effects. We can kind of keep tweaking with that, but I think what will be more interesting is if we switch over and look at some other stuff. So if I just close this down, I want to show you some other features that you can do. You could do in Pro Tools, but it's more fun to do on the desk. So what we can do now is maybe take a listen to this bass track here. Now, when Holly plays this live, the bass is like so huge and it sounds amazing. And what I want to do is try and give the bass in our track a bit of a boost to sort of emphasize it in the way that you would if you hear it live and give it a bit more energy. So to do that, we are going to use our EQ over here. And I'm going to make some adjustments with this and boost the frequencies that we're looking for. But again, we can do this on the desk, and this is a really cool feature. So at the moment, this screen here isn't really showing as much. But what we can do is take these off solo, find our bass track, and a few ways you can do this. You could lean over and adjust it over here, but if you're lazy like me, you kind of want your tracks to come to you. So we can actually bank our tracks like this, and I can adjust where my tracks are quickly and easily. And now I don't have to lean all the way over here. I just have to press this button right here, and have a look at this control. Cool, so you can see there, this is just filled up with information. I know it's not easy to see on the stream, but what we've got are different parts of our bass track now accessible on this touchscreen. And I can do something like this and drag my EQ into this touchscreen, and now these controls on the side are all going to be controlling the different functions within the EQ. So, for example, if I make an adjustment here, you can kind of see that my EQ curve is starting to adjust. And if I switch back to Pro Tools, there we go. So we can actually use the controls on the desk, and rather than me clicking with a mouse, which is never fun, we can actually do it with our hands. So let's play our bass part. What we need to do is just solo it. So we're just listening to our bass at the moment, just to focus in on it. Let's give that low end a boost. So make it a bit fatter. And another part of this bass, it has like a synth bass, and it's also layered with this like picked guitar sounding bass. And I think what would be really cool is if we find where the pick noise is and push that forward. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's use this one here. So actually, that's kind of living in the higher frequencies. So often when you think about bass, you're not thinking about those top frequencies. But sometimes you have parts of your bass, like with this, we have that pick, that kind of like sharp attack sound that I want that to cut through the mix. We can actually adjust that using some of those higher frequencies. So if I play our bass in conjunction with, let's say, the drums, because these two parts really need to lock in together, we can kind of see how that's sounding. Okay, cool. So now we've got some EQ going on there. Let's switch over and do another process, which is one of my favorite things to do in a lot of mixes, especially when this mix is already sounding really nice because of the way it was recorded and produced. We can actually give our drums, I think, a little bit more life. And I'm going to do this with a process called parallel compression. So at the moment, our drums, they sound really cool. But like I say, I think we can probably give them, like, make them sound a bit bigger. So what I've got here is this track called Crush. And what's happening is I've got a send from my kind of acoustic drums and my electric drums. And this is going to this Crush track down here. And I've got two plugins. And what we're going to do with this is take the signal from our drums and alongside our normal drum sound, add a really overly compressed, kind of distorted drum sound and mix that in with our dry drums, and it will make everything just sound like a way bigger. So what I'll do is we'll solo the Crush track, and again we can do this using our desk. So my Crush track is down here. So now if I play, you're not going to hear anything. And that's because my Crush track level is down. So if I bring this up, we're just going to hear the sound of our dry drums. Like so. To do parallel compression, what you want to do is use a compressor. And so on this project here, I'm using the Pro compressor, which looks like this. And at the moment, it's bypassed and there's no settings on. So if I press play, it's not having any effect. Now we can adjust the controls on here, but I think you can see where I'm going with this. We're going to use the desk to do it. And in the same way that we did with the EQ on our bass, we can actually grab our compressor and get it on this screen over here. So yeah, the first thing we need to do actually is use our track Attention, find our Crush track, which is this one, and you'll see on this screen that this switches when I bring this track over here. Cool, so now we have our drum Crush track ready to go. And what I'm looking for on this sort of scroll area is our compressor, which is here. So I can drag that in. And now my compressor, which you can see in Pro Tools, is now on our desk. And so these controls down here now adjust the controls for the compressor. If I move my giant head here, you can kind of see both screens simultaneously. So let's do some compression. Cool, so that's really excessive, and you wouldn't want to use that just on your main drum track because it's so huge and it's like super squashed. But what we can do is now blend this in with our main drums. So to show you the difference, if I play that and then I'll bypass it so you can hear the drums dry, bring the compressor in, you'll be able to hear the difference that it's making. Awesome. There's one of the plugin that I've got on this Crush track here, and it's this Sans Amp, and this is a really cool kind of distortion thing that you use a lot on guitars, but I started using it on drums, and I saw Chad Blake, who's a mix engineer who's worked with like the Chili Peppers and the Black Keys, and he uses it on his drums, and I was like, it's good enough for the Chili Peppers, then it's good enough for me, right? So if I go to this section of the chorus and press play, I'm gonna bring this plugin in, and you'll hear what it's doing. It's like distorting and doing all kinds of crazy stuff to our drums. Yeah, absolutely bananas. So now what we can do is take our crush track and mix it in with our main drums. And again, we'll do this on the desk, and this is where the desk is so great because you have these faders, and so rather than clicking with a mouse, you can do it all with your hands. So let's solo our drums, and I'm going to bring the crush track down and then bring the level up. And what's really cool is because we have this master section here, I can actually control my crush track here, so you can see the fader moving by itself. Actually, I've just got 2 lots of this fader again, so I don't have to lean and stretch all the way down there. So if I press play, we'll bring our crush drums in. So that's too much, but maybe about there. So without it, and with. Again, I just think it adds a really cool sort of sense of space to the mix. So in the last few minutes, what I would like to do is take these drums and do some automation with them. And what that means is we have these sections where, for example, this bit, we've got these really cool little drum fills. And I think actually we can boost the level of these and make them pop a little bit more in our mix. What I don't want to do is increase the level of my drums overall, because then my drums are just going to be way louder and it's going to ruin the balance that we did at the start. So what instead I'm going to do is use a process called automation and basically write that volume increase in, and Pro Tools will then remember that and be able to play it back for us. So we can do this again on the desk, and this is where, like I said, I think the desk is really great because you can actually use the faders. So at the moment, our fill is there, but it's kind of flat. So what I'm going to do is grab our drums track where all of our drums are going to, which is this one here, bring this up to my main fader section, and now I can activate automation on the desk. And what I'll do is switch into Pro Tools, and you'll be able to see down here on this drums track, this read thing is going to change. So if I do this, okay, now it's gone to this thing called touch. And what this means is I can make an adjustment with my fader, and if I let go of my fader, it will return the volume level back to the level it was previously at. So to do these fills, what I like to do is give myself a bit of a run up, and I'm going to play the track and write in my automation, and you'll see this red line. Well, it's not red at the moment. You'll see this line here that's just flat. That's our volume. You'll see these little boosts start to occur every time these fills happen. So I'll do the first one with this angle so you can see what I'm doing on the desk, and then we'll switch over to Pro Tools and you'll see what's happening live in Pro Tools. So let's take everything out of solo and let's try it. Cool, so there's a little bit of automation going on there. I think this first one, I cranked way too hard. I got way too into it. So let's have another go. We'll redo this first volume boost. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So with these kind of moves, I don't want the drums to be too explosive. I just want them to pop out and give a little bit more energy to these sections. And just before we finish, let's do another boost around here, except this time what I want to do is, instead of having my volume drop back down, I want my volume to stay at a higher level, so this last chorus just sounds really huge. So we're going to use a different automation function. I'm going to switch it over on the desk, and this is called latch. And what this does is, when I make my adjustment, it will stay at that level. So if we go back here, let's do that. Awesome. And then that's the end of our drums, so we don't have to worry about the volume anymore. And I think that's probably all we've got time for. We could again do loads more on this mix, but I think we're going to have a bit of time for some questions if you do have any. But like I say, this is such a great tune that Holly's put together and produced, and when it's well recorded, like you were hearing what they were doing with Dom down in the Audient room, it makes mixing it so much easier. Cool.
Yeah, so just one question. Is it better mixing on the desk or in Pro Tools?
Cool. That is a really good question. I think when you've got a desk that looks like this and is, so fun to use, I like to do different bits on the desk and then different bits in Pro Tools. So some of the stuff that's really easy in Pro Tools is, especially when you have to jump around a lot and opening plugins and stuff, making some of these adjustments in Pro Tools might be a little bit more straightforward, but you can actually access all of the features of these on the desk. And so what I like to do is set my tracks up like this in Pro Tools, have my inserts and stuff ready to go, so my effects are already on the track. And then when it comes time to actually mix it, everything's set up and ready to go, and I can jump over to the desk and not even have to look at the screen, and I can do everything on the faders and using the pan pots and stuff up here. And sometimes what we'll do is I'll just turn off the screen, so you're just using your ears. And I think when you mix a lot on computers, sorry for the squeaky chair, when you mix a lot on computers, at least for me, I found I had a tendency to look at numbers, and I was always concerned about the exact frequencies of things. And what that does is you start mixing with your eyes and maybe not with your ears, and I found I was getting into bad habits doing that. So I'll always try and do a lot of that stuff on the desk, just to make sure that I'm really listening out for what sounds good, not necessarily just what looks good as well. Cool. Okay, cheers guys. So we're scooting over to the live venue now. We're going to see a really cool performance from Holly and Lewis down there. So thank you so much for tuning in, and this is all from me, and we'll see you down in the live venue.
Good. Cool. Hey guys, welcome back to our Spirit Studios virtual experience. My name is Lewis. I'm a studio assistant and a part-time tutor here. The room that I'm currently stood in, which you guys are in virtually, is our Charlie Jones live venue. You're going to see more of it in a minute when I pan around. First, I'm going to explain the venue very quickly. It's kind of like a 100-ish cap venue. We have had events here in the past, and we hopefully will do in the future. We've got a big D&B line array and point source PA system. There's 4 subs across the bottom, so it's quite a big bassy, boomy room. It's really nice for especially something like we're going to hear in a minute. For this session, which Holly's going to play the song you heard today, she's going to perform it live. We're using this Soundcraft VI1 mixing desk. I'll go through what I'm going to do mixing-wise after the performance. As well in this room, we've got a Midas Pro 2, which is right behind your camera. We've got 2 Allen Heath SQ6s, a Midas M32 over at the monitor system over there, which again I'll explain when we get over there. There's a whole load of other cool stuff in here. It comes with a drum kit in it. We've got 2 orange guitar cabin heads, and it's a really nice room. It's really nice to learn in because of all this different equipment, both analog and digital. I've had a lot of fun in here since I was studying and now working here as well. So, what we're going to do, I'm going to go over to the stage. I will suddenly appear over there, and we're basically going to explain the setup for Holly's setup, and then Holly's going to talk a little bit about her Ableton session, which is running the thing off, and then we'll come back here and mix it live, and you guys will be able to hear it. Cool. Cool. Hopefully you can see me over here. So, obviously it's quite it's not a massive stage, it's quite a good size actually. It's quite deep, not mega wide. Obviously we've got a drum kit over there, these 2 amps that are over here, as well as Holly's setup here. So first off, Holly's using 2 monitors which we're actually mixing from front of house instead of mixing them from the monitors, which is just over that side of stage. Just because it's just me mixing, I can't run between 2 places, so it's much easier for me to mix it from over there instead of over there. So for Holly's setup, she basically has an audio interface which is running kind of the main tracks. She's got an Ableton push here as well, which hopefully you can see, which is basically running the whole session off. She's also got an SM58 which is running some live loops for the vocals. A Novation she doesn't have access to, basically I do. I've got all the control over that. The rest of it's kind of Holly's domain. So I've got 4 DI boxes, which all of this lot is plugged into, the stereo interface, and then the loop and the mini Nova, and then the lead vocal. So that's kind of the general setup. It's quite a simple setup compared to, you know, we don't have to mic up the drum kit, we don't have to mic up the guitar amps or anything. It's a nice and easy setup, but we still need to do quite a bit of mixing and leveling to make things easy to do. So do you want to have a quick chat about your Ableton session and the loops?
Yeah, so this song's pretty different actually to quite a lot of my other ones. Its structure's very different to kind of a normal pop structure, I'd say. So as we found out, I'm using loops of vocals, and they're kind of almost like the backing music really as well. So I've got kind of the opening and the intro, and actually is the outro as well. And then we've kind of got verse 1, telling a bit more of the story, and we're going to a breakdown, and then I'd say the kind of big crescendo end is almost the chorus, so it's quite, and then goes back down again to the outro that's the same as the intro. So it's quite a different structure of song, but I think it lends itself to the storytelling aspect of this one, definitely, and it's perfect to use the push to be able to loop. I think it brings an interesting live element to it as well, and then I'm just kind of using droney mini Nova things to have fun playing with. So that's me.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting. Obviously, you've got you guys have already heard this song, obviously, but to be able to watch you perform it, especially putting the live vocals recording into the push into Ableton basically, and then looping it like that, really interesting to see and interesting to do. Cool. So I'm going to head back to front of house, and then we're going to go for this song.
Nice.
Awesome. So, whenever you are ready.
Cool.
as you can hear, that was Holly's song. So what I'm quickly going to do for the next sort of 5 minutes, maybe slightly less, is explain what I did or what I was doing during it. So obviously we've had a sound check, so a lot of it's already done. We haven't had to plug everything in during this session. But let me just start off. So, like I said, she's got she's got an interface which has got basically both Ableton tracks coming left and right. So I have panned those left and right here in the PA. So it'll just be a stereo mix basically. I've taken out a bit of the low end on this, so around about 200 hertz of both of these tracks, just because it's quite nice. It was sounding a little bit too boomy for my liking, so a little bit down there. Because it's quite a dynamic track, as you will have heard before, obviously Al mixed those drums, they're quite big drums. When they come in compared to the rest of the track, it's quite a big difference. So we've got a very slight bit of compression on this stereo channel, just so that it's maybe not quite as impactful as it could be, I suppose. So I haven't had to do much more with that. I've got, like I said, those two monitors that I was sending to her. I have those here, and I was just sending her enough of that so she can hear herself comfortably. Because the room is, empty-ish, she will be able to hear basically everything from the PA anyway, but she will have the monitors as a safety net, I suppose. So next up was the loop channel. It's quite a lot of low end come off the SM58, so basically means that she, there won't be any boominess when she's singing. That's quite an interesting channel actually, because she has control over that. She's obviously doing the looping, but I also have it as a separate send, so I also have control of the level. So it's just a case of us both working together, making sure that everybody can hear that, which is quite interesting. There's no compression on that, like I say, because she has her own control. Next up was the Mini Nova, the synth. This actually was really simple for me. I haven't had to do much with it because it's only kind of droney stuff she's playing. It's more kind of atmospheric background noise. Taking a bit of the low end out just in case there was any kind of unwanted noise. The rest of it is just leveling it out, as you can see here. So the main thing, I suppose, will be the vocal. So with this, it's this lead Sennheiser E840 microphone. I really like this. I think it sounds really crisp. It's really nice. I prefer it to the SM58 sometimes. Or for certain things, especially on Holly's vocal, it sounds really nice. So again, there's a lot of low end rolled off of this. There's some 2 mid notches that I've taken out at 1K and 300 hertz ish here, just to kind of make sure that everything's nice and clean. Again, there's no unwanted noise. There's quite a lot of compression on it because it's quite a jumpy vocal, so to level everything out, it's just nice and squished, how I like it. So next up, we suppose, similar to like Al had with his vocals in the S6 previously, is we have a reverb send and a delay send. So the reverb I was sending quite a lot of the whole time. It sounds really nice in Holly's vocal. I didn't have to sort of kind of mess with that. I pushed it up a little bit during the set just to make sure it was popping out enough alongside everything else. The next thing was the delay. So as you saw in Al's session, if you were watching before, is he automated the delay as the song was going on, so that it kind of rised and fell. So I did the same thing in here, whereas in Pro Tools obviously you can do it and it will do it every time. In here I have to do it, so I'm doing it physically on some of the lines she's singing. It's coming towards the end of the line. I can then just go whack the delay up and it will delay out, and then I can bring it back down again. You might have seen me doing this in the middle of the session. If you didn't, don't worry. So what I was basically doing was, that's a tap tempo. So it means that on the delay send that I have, I can tap it as long as I'm in time. I can tap it in time with the track, which means the delay will be like, da, 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 just like that. So it's completely in time, which makes it great for when you have delays coming off the end. You don't want them like being out of time, because then it just throws everybody off, plus the artist. And yeah, like I say, all of that was sending straight to her monitors, and it was all nice and simple. It's a really nice track. It's really easy kind of setup for me as a live sound engineer. It all works quite well, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do we have any questions? No? Perfect. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick short break, and then David, who you saw before, is going to talk about some music business within the live events industry and stuff like that. And yeah, cheers guys.
Live.
Hi everyone. So you're back here with me, David, from Music Business. We're still in the Spirit Charlie Jones live venue. You've just seen the performance from the artist. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about how to get a live show, some very grassroots sort of information and advice, and a little bit more about the artist management that we ended up on the last session. So just to recap on that, questions you should ask yourself if you feel you need help moving forward. Once you feel you've got your music to a standard where it's sounding great, everyone thinks the music sounds great, but you need that critical ear. You need to know if you've got the USP, if you've got something that makes your music stand out. Like I said earlier, whether that's your vocal delivery, whether that's your lyrical input, the way you put your backing tracks together, the things that make you a little bit unique and make your style of music pop up amongst the waves of everybody else's. When you're to that stage, I think you need to ask yourself a few questions. Okay, so do you feel you're the finished article? Do you feel like your image goes along with the music that you're projecting? Would people look at it and go, wow, I really see what these guys are trying to do here. I'm getting this. I can see this taking off. If you were a person that was going to invest money, would you look at that yourself as an artist and go, right, they've thought of nearly every angle there. I can see that these guys will get people following them, become dedicated fans. Do you understand contracts? Do you understand the language used in contracts? Do you understand how to broker deals? If a publisher was suddenly interested in publishing your songs, do you know how to broker deals? If the answer to those things are no, and like we talked about earlier, do you know how to release a single? If the answer to most of those things are no, you might be at the stage where, bearing in mind if your music's great, you need to start putting that team around yourself and trusting someone to do the management and trusting someone with a bit of experience. So let's have a look at moving on to the live arena, because the amount of money in live now can be very substantial for an artist and can be a really big part of keeping an artist's career on track and keeping them going. The music economy at the minute in the UK is worth £4.5 billion. £1.1 billion of that is the live industry, and that's growing at the rate of 25% a year. So obviously at the minute we've obviously had a massive big slowdown because of COVID. You can see that all artists, you see it on social media, all the artists are desperate to get out there. People are trying different ways of putting shows on again, and we're sure that that's going to happen. We just need to slowly sort of get to that realisation and that sort of safety aspect where everyone's using that as their tools for promoting music again and for getting an income for both the people that put on the shows and the artists, obviously. So going back to grassroots a little bit, and for you guys that are thinking you get your music together, you'd want to put on your first shows, one bit of advice I'd say is you need to start ingratiating yourself with local venue bookers and local promoters. Really, you should have put a track out or two so that people start hearing of you, seeing you popping up on social media, people are talking about you as a new act on the scene in your local city. Then you start asking promoters, you know, I'm ready to do my show. They've heard your track, you send them some advanced stuff, send them some literature, your press release, so they know about you. What they're bothered about, you're going to get bodies in the venue. Are they going to have an empty venue when they take the punt on you? So how do you go about that? How do you go about getting people to come and watch your show? So if you worked hard on your social media presence, we all know that social media is so important nowadays. We all know that you can boost posts. We all know that you can quite easily sit there with your laptop on your knee and look like you're reaching people and people are going to come to your show. But there's nothing like the old-fashioned way of promoting as well. And that's by ringing people, texting people, messaging people, going around to people with physical tickets, putting a ticket in the hand. It's a well-known thing in the industry that people with a ticket in the hand are much more likely to turn up at your show than someone who you message and say, you're coming down, yeah, I'll be there, don't worry about it. A ticket in the hand means that you're going somewhere, and there's a high percentage of people that will come down. So that old-fashioned legwork, just like the legwork you've put in to get your music to a great standard, the legwork you've put into book studios and get everything sounding great, don't let it stop. Keep it going through everything. You saw before the live sound, your sound's got to be great, so dialogue with the sound engineer of the type of thing you're going for. If you're going for an ethereal sort of sound, They need to know that you want a lot of reverb, you want a lot of delays, or you're bringing your own pedals. Make everything as cohesive and professional so that when you put on your show and you've worked to get the people there, people are going to go away talking about it and go, wow, never knew these guys were this good. Okay? So what impression do you want to leave? The impression you want to leave is that you're the new people on the scene to watch. The best thing I've ever worked on has been when it's been fresh, new and quick. Because things that take 4 or 5 years, people seem to feel you've been around on the scene quite a lot. If you do a lot of work in the shadows and get everything to the standard that it needs to be, when you suddenly burst out onto that scene, people go, wow, where have these guys come from? Where's she come from? This is so fresh, we've never even heard of them. People love that in this industry, they love fresh and new. Okay, how can we use our existing recordings to make money on a live show and get extra revenue for us for the next show? I think the earlier you can start selling merch, even very basic merch, t-shirts, use the recordings that you've already put out, maybe do a very limited run vinyl or CD. I'd probably do a vinyl because I think it's a little bit more collectible, it's a bit more substantial for someone to have. Have someone with a merch stand, a friend will do it for you. I've always done this with bands where I've had merch stands, and I always tell the bands to tell people that they'll chat to them after the show. There's still people waiting around wanting to talk about the gig with you. Tell them to come over to the merch stand. It seems cynical. It's not, because a lot of the time they don't know where it is. They'll be stood in their own corner of the room all night. They come over to chat to you. We did it on tours in Germany a lot. The German audience would come over. They'd look and they'd want to buy something because they think, oh, I've had a chat with the band as well now. I want to take something away. So just a few grassroots things for how to start your live career. Obviously, further down the line, this explodes into a whole new realm of advice and experience. But we'll leave it there today because I know Adrian's going to come up and see if you've got any questions. So thanks from me.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody who's been viewing this afternoon. Very big thank you to everybody who you can't see in the room, who's kind of done all of this stuff to sort of get this, like I say, all 100% live thing over to you. A very big special thank you to our new tutor, Holly, who has done this track for you as well today, this live performance, which is really nice thing for us to be able to provide today and to see. Like Lewis said earlier on, this is a venue with usually capacity of about 100 people. We have had performances in here previously. Obviously with more people, we will be doing more going on. You never know, perhaps I can persuade Holly to maybe do one with a room full of people and students and so on and so forth. So it just becomes a very kind of active place. When this place is full of students and it's in full swing, which it will be in a matter of weeks now, it's a very different, very dynamic, exciting place to be, where you've got people who are studying electronic music, you've got people who are studying live, you've got people on music business and entrepreneurial audio production and music production, and everyone kind of coming together to kind of bring what my learnings and my knowledge is bringing and collaborating and stuff like that. So today has also been a great day of collaboration in order to get what we've done now, as I say, our third virtual experience. So I don't want to talk on anymore because I know there's one or two questions, and so I'm going to answer those, and hopefully they'll be beneficial to other people who might be in the same or similar position. Again, just one more time, if you do have any other questions, certainly for people who are going to be watching this on catch up at some other point later, it will be going live on our YouTube channel, and so anybody who's listening now, then please just send an email to manchester@spiritstudios.ac.uk and we will answer your questions as best as possible. So, Kerry.
Leah is a DJ and she's asking if the electronic music production and performance degree is the best degree to help further her skills.
In terms of
As a DJ,
as a DJ. Leah, thank you for your question. So yeah, absolutely. If you're wanting to further your skills, you're wanting to do a degree, you've done all of your kind of homework in that area, and you're thinking, what kind of a course will help me to develop my skills further as a DJ? I mean, great. That's a perfect thought process in terms of what would be best for you. So in that case, then yes, electronic music production and performance is. The degree actually used to be called electronic music production and DJ performance, DJ practice actually. So we tweaked that, we changed it slightly because as you've just seen now with Holly, I mean, would you class Holly as being a DJ? You'd certainly class her as being a performer. And those bridges can kind of cross over where you've got somebody who you could very much describe as a DJ, but actually now a DJ is no longer somebody that selects only. We've obviously seen an Ableton Push 2, which has changed that dynamic further. Novation, any keyboards like that will kind of do that. So the crossover is wide. And so the electronic music production and performance degree definitely does do that. It reinforces the traditional roles of a DJ, but it also looks in addition to that as to where a DJ perhaps is now, where one is in the future, and how DJs are expected to be producers and performers, and how producers are more and more expected to also become performers as well at the same time. So it's not just about producing in a room and putting out a record, as I'm sure David will also say. It's also about how do I then go and perform that as well, and that could be as a DJ. So hopefully that's answered the question. If not, again, get in touch.
What is the deadline for applications for 2021?
Okay, so for applications for 2021, so at the moment we're in 2021, so I'm going to answer it twice because I'm not quite sure exactly. So if it's you wanting to start a degree this year, which is 2020-21, then our deadline really for that is kind of, well, the actual deadline is October, middle of October. But we would obviously urge anybody who is thinking of starting this September to do so as quickly as possible, because obviously already we're communicating with our students. It's definitely not too late. We catch items up, we send straight away. So some of the new technology that we've got in place, remote desktop, where you can access all of our machines, etc. Information is starting to go out now about all of that and timetables and stuff. So it's kind of now, ignoring the deadline. If you are thinking genuinely though, in terms of beginning in September 21, which is 21-22, then the deadline for that is the same time now. So we would never advocate leaving it all the way. Most of our applicants come in early, so January, so they start to open around now, or earlier than now actually, but January becomes the first deadline, but then we receive applications throughout the year to get us to where we are now, which is clearing. The earlier you apply for a degree, the more likely it is that you have on our degree. And it tends to sort of people who apply early also have really thought things through. So again, same rule. So right now you can apply, first deadline is January middle, and then you can apply all the way through to around October. But bear it in mind, if you leave it that late, then people have already begun their classes. Essentially this year it will be the week commencing the 14th.
Can you talk a little bit about the accommodation that's available?
Yes, so we are what we would very much describe as a niche provider. We are a leading niche provider in this city. We're not, you know, our degrees are validated by UCLan University, who are obviously what you describe as a big, large red brick university. We are a partner of them, and we are, so by default, we're this sort of smaller niche provider who concentrates exclusively on music. So we don't have our own accommodation as such, because we're not this large red brick like, you know, Manchester Metropolitan or a large university like UCLan. But what we do have is obviously access to lots and lots of people who do have apartments and houses and so on to rent. So we've got relationships with lots of providers. The market right now, there is lots and lots of apartments that are available. What we tend to find is people move in somewhere on a short contract, and then when they begin, as I just alluded to before, somebody on electronic music will meet somebody on music business and so on, and they will then forge their own relationships and partnerships and find a place themselves on the private market. So we don't provide itself accommodation, but what we will do is provide guidance and advice and areas where most students are or aren't, and depending on your budget, we'll work with individual applicants and find a way through for you.
Can you talk a little bit about applying through clearing if people are interested?
Yeah, so if you're applying through clearing, it's the same process because you're in the UCAS system. UCAS themselves will guide you through what that process is. Essentially, clearing is the same as it is at any point during the year. You apply to do a degree with us, and that system is through UCAS, and you are then go through the process of the application coming to us, we doing interviews and so on and so forth, and meeting the criteria, and also consultation. Is it the right course for you? Have you looked at this course as well? And try to get an idea of each other. So it's the same. And so if you are already in the process, which you will be if it's clearing potentially that you're going into, you may already have a place somewhere else. You may have been given an offer on another place, but you might want to go, do you know what, I don't want that, I don't want to go. So then you have to get released and so forth, and then you apply to us. UCAS themselves provide tons of information. They provide lots and lots of information to help students with clearing, because clearing is complicated. It's not complicated in itself, but it's complicated because students and young people find themselves in a position where they may not have a degree, and there's anxieties perhaps in place, or am I too late, and so on. So the FAQs that they provide back is really, really large. You'll find all institutions are extremely helpful in managing for you and with you that application process. That's even if you've already been given an offer somewhere else, but you'd like to choose another one somewhere else. If you are having any difficulties, or if you are having any problems, then again the best thing to do is to look at UCAS, but also contact us, and we can certainly guide you on a more unique individual basis, because every case is ultimately different.
Do applicants need any previous experience to apply?
No, in a straightforward answer, you can have no experience of producing music. You can have no experience of studying music. Most people who come to us have got an experience of passive listening with music. They are a fan of music. They like music. They know what they like, and perhaps they've done a course at school or at a college that they've gone down a path which perhaps somebody else has helped them to go down. And we do get lots of students like that who have got absolutely no prior experience. The issue with people not having any prior experience is that you are coming into a situation which is all brand new to you. So you've got no idea what a microphone is in front of you, or you've got no idea how audio might work, or how signals might pass, and so on and so forth. So there is a learning curve, but if you're dedicated to it, and we're certainly dedicated to teaching it, then it's not a barrier. It will not prevent you from studying, and actually studying very, very successfully, coming out of the other end with a very, very good grade, and actually from that point on working, producing or engineering in the field that you want to be in. Is that it?
Yeah,
okay, good. Right, well then I'm going to leave you to the rest of your Saturday. Thanks again, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Everyone's done a great job, and to provide you with what you've got today. So I'd like to thank you, and hopefully see some of you really soon. Okay, cheers.